Right. We see people joining the Ask Us Anything NMFC Class IT Plus webinar. We're going to give everybody a minute as we see folks still joining. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. So thanks everyone for joining us. If you joined us last time, we do a series of webinars about the Class IT Plus changes and the NMFC changes. And we get so many questions at the end, and they're really good questions that we decided to link some or start something called Ask Us Anything, and the feedback's been really positive. So we extended it to an hour. So it's just an hour where we just give you guys an opportunity to ask us anything. So this will be recorded and available. And at the bottom, there is a Q&A button. And so just throw in anything related to the NMFC changes or the Class IT Plus, and we'll be more than happy to answer the question. And so on the next slide, I'm going to introduce the panel for today. So I'm Joe Orr, the Chief Operating Officer at NMFTA, and I have been focused on the classification changes and helping build the Class IT Plus application and infrastructure. Holly?
Hi, I'm Holly Taylor. I'm the Director of Product at NMFTA, and I have been breathing and living Class IT Plus for many, many months. So really excited to have you all here and answer your questions.
Hi, I'm Keith Peterson. I'm Director of Operations at NMFTA. I head up the classification team and have been working with them on 2025-1, preparing it and getting it ready to go here on July 19th for the past year here. So thanks for everybody for attending, and looking forward to the questions today.
Some important dates that we just wanted to review. We did release the NMFC Item Lookup Tool on April 21st. This tool is really beneficial for those looking to get a head start on learning more about the changes and how it's going to impact your everyday use. So please, we'll give you some more information on how to access that in a minute, but that's a great tool for you. Next week on May 20th, we have the Class IT Plus API Sandbox. Testing will be fully available with data. It will be non-production data, but so you'll be able to go out there and fully test your API. On July 15th, this is when Class IT Plus will be released. And then July 19th, we will have the NMFC data changes will become effective.
And there are some key resources here for us to, for everybody to use as well. So the first one being nmfcchanges.com. It's a great page where we have really all the lists we've produced, checklists, any kind of webinars we've done regarding the NMFC changes. The lookup tool that Holly mentioned before as well is getclassification.com. That's been really successful. We've had a lot of people register and use that tool, and it's a great way to go out and see what could be happening to your item number. And then, of course, ClassITplus.com has got everything you need to know about what's happening with Class IT Plus. So it's a great place to go and get caught up on anything new, or really just kind of go back and see what you may have missed regarding it.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Keith. On ClassITplus.com, we have all of the recordings. It's under the on-demand section. You can watch all of our previous webinars, listening sessions. We held some demos this month, just really great stuff. So if you have any questions, these are all really great resources for you to check out.
All right, so we're going to start the Q&A, and again, really the topics we're going to cover is the data changes, the item lookup tool, and ClassIT Plus. But one of the things that I do want to point out when we talk about the important dates is today. Today is probably the most important date, at least in ClassIT Plus. Today's the date we're starting our beta. So for beta customers, they are starting to test. So we're starting to get feedback. It is real. It is out there. And it is starting to be tested. So, we are really excited about that. So, for the beta customers, they're getting an opportunity to get that. And our approach with beta is we just don't want to know about any issues they may find, but also give us feedback on the usability. So we're not taking the approach of, hey, we're just going to fix these major issues. We've got time built in to fix usability things that these people believe represent the industry, and we believe represent the industry to make the product better. And so we are excited about that. All right. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and start asking questions. So with and this goes for either one of you guys. So with the lookup tool, a lot of people are looking and they'll see where things aren't changing in 2025-1. So if they've got a list of things, so I'm struggling to find the description for the new codes. Is there a tool where they can look up simple categories without having to manually look through each disposition? Keith, maybe you can take that one.
Sure. So it sounds like, Sherry, you're looking at the disposition bulletin already to find out what might be changing and looking at what the new code is going to look like. Yeah, and keep in mind you can use the lookup. Well, I don't want to say lookup tool. You can actually do the find and go to see those specific item numbers as you're using the disposition bulletin, since it is in PDL. Probably the other tool that's really available is for new item numbers. Keep in mind that they're not going to be out on ClassIT Plus until July 19th. And then that's when you'll be able to view the item numbers, at least in ClassIT Plus here. So so that really leaves, if you want to go in and see the language that's going to be around it, is going to be the disposition bulletin.
Okay. One of the questions, are these sites free to use? And the answer is, other than ClassIT and ClassIT Plus, everything else we're talking about is free. The item lookup tool, we honestly internally discuss, is that something we should charge for? And we determined we really don't. We want to make this transition as easy as possible. And we're really glad we didn't. We've got over 5,000 registered users, and the carriers are asking the shippers to use it. We see a lot of brokers using it. And so the NMFC data change, or the NMFC changes, that's got the webinars and the dispositions, none of those we charge for. The only thing that we've talked about that we do charge for is ClassIT and ClassIT Plus. Everything else is free to look up. And then Holly, will these resource links be sent to us in an email, or are they available on the NMFTA website? And I think there's two answers to that. So can you answer that one for us?
Yeah, absolutely. The resources are available on the NMFTA website. In fact, when you go to nmfta.org, I believe we have a banner that even pops up promoting ClassIT Plus and the NMFC changes. So if you go directly, click on that banner, if you go directly to those pages are linked as well. So if you go to classitplus.com, you're actually going to find a link directly to the NMFC changes page. And then you're also going to get that link for the tool as well. So these resources are all intertwined and available from the NMFTA website.
Okay, thanks, Holly. So there's a question about a company getting on the beta list. Right now, the beta is full for the UI testing. If a customer would like to get on the wait list, they can email us. Or if they'd like to get on the beta list for the API, please let us know that also. Holly, anything you'd like to add for that?
Yeah, like you said, Joe, the beta participation is full. The beta program is full right now for the UI side, but we are actively in the process of getting the API program up and started, and that starts in less than 2 weeks. So if anyone is interested in the API, there is still maybe a spot or two left in there for that specific beta program. So just let us know, reach out.
Okay. And then Holly, one of the questions is what's the difference between ClassIT and ClassIT Plus? And I'm going to ask that we answer that in a little bit. I think I don't know how hard it is, but I know we've got a slide that shows that
Okay.
I don't know how hard it would be to pop up in the webinar and if a little bit later, but it's got some check boxes that has that. So maybe we can answer that a little bit later and go through that chart. I put these guys on the spot sometimes and say, hey, let's show this. So if you can find that, great. If not, we can verbally go through it. But I think that's a really good question. Keith and I just did something with FreightWaves and we talked about it. But the transition is really significant. So at a deep level, you know, we really focused. Number one, it uses the new docket, right? It's ClassIT Plus is going to use 2025-1. Second of all, we focused on the usability, much more intuitive. The searchability, it's got state-of-the-art searching capability, built on new technology. We use a Mongo database, and Mongo's got great tools that we're able to utilize that allows for a more elastic search. We also focus on the APIs with ClassIT Plus, and then it's that Google-like search experience. We also focused on, what do people want? They use about 20% of the book. So they want to do things like bookmark and share and have common areas. And so we really focus on that user experience. And so when Holly has that slide ready, I'll ask her to share that.
I do have it ready. I think we
Okay.
just need to get Aaron. Aaron could give me hand over the screen share to me. That might take us a minute. Apologize. Or I could just send it over to Aaron, whichever is easiest.
Okay. Well, you guys do that. We'll keep answering some questions. So can you clarify the tool which is free? So that is the NMFC Item Lookup Tool that is free. And then all the webinars and information is free. The only tool that is not free is ClassIT and ClassIT Plus. One of the questions is, why does a lookup tool keep asking me to send my email when I go to use it? It depends on your internet settings. So it uses a token or a cookie. If you use a different browser, if you're in a private or incognito setting, or if you've got your browser setting not to keep essential cookies, it will ask you to relog in because it doesn't recognize you. Um, so it really depends on your internet settings, or if you're using a different computer. But if you're using the same computer, the same browser, and you're allowing those essential cookies, it should not ask you to relog in. Now, we know some companies have browsers locked down, which is why we allow for the same user to register multiple times. So, Keith, is the majority of the ratings based mainly on density of the goods? I'm new in this area and want to understand LTLs a little bit more. And we just talked about this earlier, so kind of talk about 2025-1 and the transition to more the density.
So when it comes to, we've decided to make density the primary characteristic when we're looking at classifying freight. So as we look at freight and really the commodities involved with freight, we and it sounds kind of funny, but we first look to see if there's any handling, stowability, or liability issues first. And if there's none of those, so you think boxes that fit on a pallet, right, that eventually gets shrink wrapped as they're being prepared for shipment, we go straight to full scale density. And that full scale density scale is 13 subs there. So, that's the system we're moving to here. Currently, the full scale density is 11 subs, but we just added two more classes to it, 1555, that allow for the really heavy, dense freight, meaning and we're that way we're able to put it on the full scale there. So I think that answers that question there.
Thank you. And Holly, I think you're ready.
All right, so can everyone see my screen? You should see next gen
Yep.
features of the API. Perfect. So
And if you don't see it at the top, there's a tab that says Holly Taylor screen. You may have to click on the tab that says Holly Taylor screen.
Perfect.
Depending on the version of Zoom that you're using.
And like Joe was saying earlier, the emphasis on ClassIT Plus is well beyond just the user side, the UI, the user interface. We also took a really deep dive into the APIs, and we really expanded the functionality for the APIs. And as you can see here, we offer what we're calling the next gen features. So you can see the similarities between ClassIT and ClassIT Plus, and then you can see where ClassIT Plus takes it to that next level. And we provide additional functionality in the terms of the search. Not only is the search more powerful and more robust, but we also provide more capabilities. We also upgraded the calculators, and we're also giving early access to data changes. If you are an API subscriber, you will actually get access to the data changes a minimum of 7 days prior. So for 2025-1, you're actually going to get access 2 weeks prior to the data changes going into effect on July 19th. Normally, and the reason why we're doing this is because the changes are so massive. Normally, you would get 7 days early access to the data changes 7 days prior to the effective date. Through the API, you can also receive back the information if it's been canceled, and then if it's been canceled, what replaces it if it was canceled with reference. We're also providing an item's recent history. And again, this is all through the API. So if you search for an item and you would like to see the recent history, and when I say recent history, within the last 12 months, you'll be able to, and that's starting with 2025-1. So 2025-1 and forward, you'll be able to see 12 months worth of history for that item. So if there is a change within the last like 6 months, 8 months, 12 months, then you'll actually be able to see that change. We're going to be providing threshold notifications and batch requests just for those updates as well. So major improvements and enhancements on the API side, and those enhancements are going to be reflected in the user experience from ClassIT Plus. Like Joe said, it really is secure and built using the latest, the cutting edge technology. We want you to have that Google-like experience when you're searching. We're going to provide you suggestions as you're searching and as you're typing in those keywords, those descriptions, those item numbers. We are going to offer suggestions as you type. With this ClassIT Plus is specifically designed for 2025-1 and beyond. The current ClassIT will be sunsetted towards the end of the year, later in the fall, and it will not be updated with 2025-1. So ClassIT Plus is your only solution to access these changes. We are really focused on the user's experience, making sure that everyone has an intuitive experience. You get easy access to the data. You can automatically receive notifications when changes are made. So each time we make a change, each time a supplement is released, that's when we have data changes. And if something that you have in your favorites, something you've commented on, if it's something that you're following, you'll automatically get notified if it's changed, if it's been canceled, if it's been amended. And those notifications can be both visual on screen, and you can also receive those notifications in your email. Really, we also want to make sure that the ClassIT Plus experience fits your needs. We have a dashboard, which is the central hub for everything, and it gives you access to the tools that you need. And those tools include your favorites, your comments. You can see your search history. You can continue to define synonyms. You can have access to different parts of the NMFC books, like key procedures and samples of forms. And last but certainly not least, we really want to make collaboration simple and convenient for you and your team. So we actually created something called a company common, where if set up for your company, you can actually share things across the board. So you can share your favorites, you can share your comments and have conversations about items. You can share your synonyms, you can share your bookmarks. It's really all about that collaboration to make sure that you can streamline your processes.
Thanks, Holly. And so, Keith, one of the questions is, do we envision carriers issuing more reclasses as a result of these changes? I'm going to give my answer, then I'll let you answer. I mean, based on the feedback and based on our goals, I would expect less. We simplified classification, and the goal is that shippers understand it, carriers understand it, and that there's going to be less free classifications, and it reduces the friction between the shipper and the carrier. That's one of the goals. Keith, anything you want to add?
So, I mean, I would agree. The goal is to simplify this and make it just a lot easier. Keep in mind, we're condensing down the number of item numbers that are out there, and making, so many more items, basically full scale density on the 13 subscale here, that, the confusion, possibly, or a lot of those are eventually going to, go down here. So that's what I would expect from that too.
Okay. And then Holly, there's two questions. Talk about if a customer's got a ClassIT subscription, how do they transition to ClassIT Plus? Let's say that their subscription doesn't expire until November, for example. Are they automatically transitioned? And maybe talk a little bit about the difference in how the licensing works.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you are a current ClassIT subscriber and your subscription has not expired by July, then you will automatically transition over to ClassIT Plus. There's nothing that you have to do. In fact, next week, you're going to receive some email communications. We're calling it Next Step Communications, and it's going to outline what you can expect over the next 2 months as we prepare for the rollout of ClassIT Plus. And some of the things that you can look forward to is that easy transition. We're going to bring over your subscriber data so that your users will come over along with your licenses. So let's say, for example, that you have 10 users, 10 licenses. We're going to bring over those 10 users with those 10 licenses, and that's going to be your new subscription, your new account for ClassIT Plus. If your expiration date is, let's say, September 15th, your expiration date for ClassIT Plus will become September 15th. That means you will have access to ClassIT Plus, and then by September 15th, if you want to continue using ClassIT Plus, you'll just renew your subscription just like you would have in the past with ClassIT. If you want to increase the number of licenses for ClassIT Plus, you'll be able to do so on July 15th, and we do have discounts where the more licenses you purchase, the cheaper it becomes. So that's really great if you want to build up your user base. If you decide that there's really nothing for you to do between now and then, we will send Okta activation emails. Essentially, to access ClassIT Plus, we are moving to a login process that embraces Okta. It's a more secure login, and so at the end of June, beginning of July, we're going to start sending out those Okta invitations. And all you'll have to do is click on the link, follow the instructions in the email. You'll click on the link to activate your Okta login, and then you're all set. And then you get access to ClassIT Plus. That's all you have to do. Your company admin will actually get access to ClassIT Plus at the beginning of July. So they will have about 2 weeks so that they can go in. They can look at your company settings and make sure that all of your subscribers are set up correctly. All of your users have licenses that need licenses. And really, we just want to make sure that you have enough time to get ready for July 15th. I think.
And yeah, and I think that answers it. And one of the follow-up questions talks about, is there an upgrade fee? And we're not doing that.
Nope.
If you've got ClassIT, you're grandfathered into ClassIT Plus. And then when you renew, the price structure, the new price structure goes into effect. In some cases, the price may increase. In some cases, the price is decreasing depending on the bundle. But what we're not doing on July 19th is saying, okay, everybody's going to ClassIT Plus and charging an upgrade fee. Everybody that has ClassIT is transitioning over. And again, that is, we felt like that was the right thing to do. And we really want people to ease into these, or have a very positive experience as they transition into the new classification. All right, so Keith, there's a couple questions related to when they go into the lookup tool. It talks about handling stowability, the changes. It's like, that's the change. So talk about when it's flagged in the lookup tool and what that means. And also on top of that, are there any other changes that we expect between now and the 19th in classification?
Sure. So if you see when you're looking in the lookup tool that handling stowability and liability indicator has been added, what that means is that there is going to be an indicator put into the book and on ClassIT Plus that will clearly indicate that handling stowability and liability has been found on this commodity. Before, you'd always have to read through the notes on it in order to find that information out. Now, keep in mind that there's no other changes to those items. We did not change anything on items that have handling stowability or liability issues. And when I say that, I mean we didn't change anything about what classes may be assigned to them or even the item number. All we did was add that symbol to any items that have handling stowability and liability issues. And what was the second part of the question? Sorry, I lost you.
And no, that's all right. And a couple questions, because people have ERP systems and things like that. Any other changes between now and July, or are these talk a little bit about the approval process and how the changes work.
Sure.
We are doing no more changes between now and July, but maybe touch base a little bit on how that process works.
Sure, sure. So the process, really, the docket was released at the end of January this year. And then we take feedback on it, and then we actually have a public meeting, and that was right at the beginning of March. And by the end of March, we had what we call the disposition bulletin. So after that public meeting, the FCDC gets back together and decides on any changes that may be made based on feedback. But it's all finalized for the disposition bulletin, and that is really the final version of the docket that's out there. And if you look through, I put an answer in and with a link where to go to find both the docket and the disposition bulletin as well, so that, you know, if needed, you're able to go and find those things. But to echo Joe, there will be no more changes between now and July. It is set, and we're working to make sure it goes live.
Thanks, Keith. And Kylie had mentioned there's a couple questions about licensing. The license originally is per user, but the software itself wasn't enforcing that. The new release does enforce that. And so it's not a per seat license, it's per user, which means the user can use it on the phone, on the tablet, on their laptop, on a desktop, but it is per user. So when they're buying a license, you're buying it per user. Number one, we believe it's a better user experience than per seat. And number two, it's more secure. One of the things we're extremely focused on is cybersecurity. And this level of authentication ensures that your data is secure because it uses a secondary level of authentication. And so right now, if multiple users can access on multiple licenses, the answer is correct. They will need two licenses. So if two users means two licenses. So that's one of the things. If you're using ClassIT and say you have 20 licenses but 25 users, you will need to increase that to 25. What we're not going to say is, oh, you got to buy a brand new. You got to do a whole new contract. We're going to right size your current contract and then prorate it. And so if your contract ends in December, we'd prorate it from July to December, or I'm sorry, the date you let us know, we'll prorate that through December to make sure that the licensing is correct for not only ClassIT Plus, but technically for ClassIT also.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, starting July 15th, you'll actually be able to right size your subscription right from classitplus.com. So you will actually be able to, like Joe said, you can add those 5 seats, and right there on the screen, it'll show you the prorated amount that you owe, and you'll be able to purchase it right away. If we don't want you to pay for a full 12 months, we want those users to be added to your current contract, your current subscription. So if you expire in August, then you're just going to pay for those additional seats for 3 months. And then when you renew in August, you'll pay for everyone all at once again. And remember, the more seats you have, the lower the per license cost is. And as another thing that's come up in the past, people have asked this question: what happens if someone leaves the company or they don't need access anymore, right? So the company admin has full access to the licensing section. So they can go in and unassign a license if someone leaves the company or if they no longer need access to ClassIT Plus, and then they can reassign that license to whoever needs access. So the company admin can easily navigate that issue if you have someone leave the company or they don't need access anymore.
Okay, thanks, Holly. So Keith, in the item lookup tool, some NMFCs are noted with will say full density and some say updated, full density updated from 11 subs to 13 subs. What's the difference?
Sure. So when we changed from 11 subs to 13 subs on the full density scale, we already had about 100 or so items that were at full density on the 11 sub scale. If it's saying full density changing to 13 sub, that just indicates that it was already a full density item, but now instead of 11 sub, it's going to be 13 subs for the scale of classes on that. And then the other one, I can't remember exactly what it said there, but it just indicates that this is an item that wasn't full density before, but now it will be full density, and any full density item is on the 13 subscale.
Okay. Keith, are the changes being made in July the only ones being made in this calendar year?
Let's see here. No, we will have another docket this year. So keep in mind, everybody, typically we have 3 dockets a year to make changes to the NMFC. This docket 2025-1 is so large that we actually gave extra time between the disposition bulletin being released and having it go live on July. It actually would have been much sooner than July 19th. But what that did was, what we decided to do as a result of giving that extra time is we moved from 3 dockets this year down to 2 here. So there will be another docket released timing should be about the end of August. And in November, the changes from that docket will go live basically. Now, keep in mind, this next docket isn't going to be as large as 2025-1. We are continuing with some changes like in 2025-1 and moving more items to full scale density. However, it's not going to be 99 proposals by any means here. We worked on 2025-1 for basically a year in order to get it out here. And we were, and this next one, we don't have that much time. And a lot of 2025-1 was, some people refer to it as the low hanging fruit. It was items that we knew we can move to full density. Now we're moving into items that we have to look a little bit closer at. So that's just going to take more time here.
Okay. And then Holly, if I'm a ClassIT user, how do I find my expiration date for my license?
Currently, in your account settings, you'll see that information. If you are struggling to find it, then you can reach out to us, to our customer support team, and we can share that information for you.
Okay. And you can reach out to her. How would I get a hold of the support team?
Absolutely. Yeah, so the easiest way to get a hold of our support team is go to nmfta.org, and then you can click on contact in the upper right, and that'll take you to the support page, and that'll give you all the contact methods for reaching out to our support team. I would say the easiest way is to submit there's a form that you can have, there's a phone number, and then the second option is click here to submit a form. Fill out that form, put exactly the information you need, and we'll get back to you very quickly.
Okay. And then Keith, some of these, I'll break this one up a little bit. Can you tell us what Class 150 will be replaced with?
So Class 150 isn't actually being replaced. So the 11 sub full density scale actually never had a Class 150. And the only thing we're adding to the 13 sub full density scale is classes 50 and 55, thinking of the really heavy dense freight. Okay. So, some people may use class 150, which is part of the full density scale of 18 subs. But keep in mind, we're just using 13 subs for our full density scale in this case here. And it just allows for a wider range and making it a little bit simpler for everybody, because a full 18 subs can make it really exact in that case there. So, but 150 isn't being replaced or changed at all.
Okay. What about flat classes? Will they still be used?
So I'm not sure exactly what a flat class is. I'm going to be honest there. So
Okay.
it may be something where it could be in a tariff with a carrier, and keep in mind that, we don't really handle tariffs when it comes to the NMFC. That's something that may be at a carrier possibly. There are still going to be items out there that are either single or modified density scale. Especially if they have handling, stowability, or liability concerns. We'll continue to do a density research project on that and determine exactly what classes should be applicable to those items.
Okay. And I know we don't at NMFTA, you and I have had this discussion. We don't comment a lot about FAKs. And so there are some questions about FAKs. What can you say about FAKs and how it relates to density and the changes? Anything you can say? I know a lot of times in panels we defer to shippers and carriers on this stuff, but on that question, but what can we say on FAKs?
I mean, FAKs are typically worked out between a carrier and their customer, and I would just be careful with FAKs in the end. Yeah, and this is something that's come up a lot as I've talked to carriers, even as I've been with carriers on panels, is that FAKs are generally going to be, it's really averaging out and trying to lessen the risk of classification. And it's always going to be, in the favor of somebody when it comes to that, because it's really just kind of averaging out these classes here. So, as far as FAKs, we really don't work with them within the NMFC as well here. So, a lot of times I refer them back to the carriers, to discuss what may happen with FAKs.
Okay. And then, one of the things, and Keith, I think maybe we can I don't know if we should show the spreadsheet or the docket, but that the spreadsheet that has the info with the items, or maybe it's the docket, but there's a lot of questions about how do I look at, I mean, you addressed it a little bit before, but the items in the descriptions, where somebody would go for an item in a description. So I think we can answer a little bit later, but I think we're getting questions on, hey, I get the information in the lookup tool, but it doesn't have the description, and that is by design. But what if somebody does want to get the item description?
So keeping in mind that, these changes in 2025-1 don't become effective until July 19th. That means even in ClassIT today, and what's ClassIT Plus is released on July 15th, you still won't be able to go and get the updated descriptions, not until it becomes effective, because there has to be a cutoff date. And that's why in my comments before, I really push people to the disposition bulletin. It comes out as a PDF. So I think a lot of people end up scrolling, but make sure you use the Control F functionality there. And you can search by either the old item number or the new item number. And within that disposition bulletin, and make sure you get the disposition bulletin, because as I said before, that's the final version of the docket. So it has all changes in it. Use Control F, search for your new item number, and that should get you right to where it is, and you'll be able to go through the description and the wording around that item number right there. So,
Okay. I read the new changes include a requirement to put the pallet size on the BOL going forward, and a concern if one BOL has multiple sizes.
Hmm. So there are no changes to any requirements in 2025-1, basically. One thing that we think is important is that shippers start getting the measurements of their handling units before they get shipped. So you think the length, width, and height, as well as the weight, and that helps you figure out density, and you can easily get a class from that. But what's important to realize as you're getting the measurements of a handling unit is, you have to measure the entire handling unit. And in this case, I'm thinking of a pallet with some boxes on it. So it could be the boxes don't take up all the room on the pallet, but you still have to measure from the edges of the pallet. And it's always been that way. Think of it this way. Carriers want to rate and charge for the room taken up on the floor of their trailer, within their trailer, really, because they also want to try to fill up the trailer as much as possible. So they're interested in how much floor space that pallet takes up. So when you're thinking of taking dimensions for density, you always have to include the edges of the pallet here. And that becomes a really important point when it comes to these changes and how much everybody's going to be relying on density. Really pay attention to how your freight is being prepared for shipment. Are you shipping some air, basically, right? Are you taking up the entire pallet? Is there a better way to do this so that overall it's more dense and more compact, and you could get a more favorable class that way by possibly changing around how things are prepared for shipment. So it's an important thing to keep in mind as these changes start going forward here.
And then Holly, we got a question it's funny. You and I got a similar question, or I think it came in yesterday, and you and I had this discussion. Hey, I'm a small business, and I, how do I keep track of this? I don't need a big expensive solution. What do I do? And so I'll ask you, but one of the things is we did price ClassIT Plus, that you can buy a single license and just kind of log in, look at what you need to look at, keep track. You don't pay, like Keith mentioned, we're doing an update. You don't pay for that update. It just happens because it's cloud-based. So that's our recommended solution, and that's why it's priced the way it's priced. But Holly, for a small business, any other solutions?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. So first thing I would take advantage of all these free resources we have and to get yourself prepared and then to see what the impact will be on your business. And then that'll determine if you need a license for ClassIT Plus and how many. Like Joe said, we've actually lowered the price in most cases from our current ClassIT going forward. So to ClassIT Plus. So if you only need that single license, it's not going to be a big expense. And we don't have monthly fees. You don't have extra fees to access the updated data each time we release updates. It's just you pay once a year. It's an annual subscription and it's done. But if you do find out that you need more licenses, the minute you add that second license, you get a discount, automatically get a discount. And if you are a member of NMFTA, you get another discount. So we really want to encourage, we really want to open ClassIT Plus up to a broader audience. So we really focused on the pricing structure to make sure that we weren't pricing people out of getting access. So ClassITplus.com has a full list of like the prices and can give you more information on that.
Okay. And then two of the questions has to do with, hey, I ship a particular product. Will these changes, well, these class changes. And we know that getclassification.com, you can get the item number. But Keith, you mentioned being able to look in, how would what if I didn't know the item number? How would I go about that? So if let's say I ship cases of beer, for example, or books, how would I get the item number to put into getclassification.com?
Well, if that's the case and you're looking for an item number, that's really, a situation where you need ClassIT. And if you don't have a license for it, talk to us about ClassIT. And as Holly just said, we're going to be moving people to ClassIT Plus once that becomes available automatically. So you don't need to wait for ClassIT Plus here, right? ClassIT is out there. It's a product where you can already go and search with descriptive terms, and go out and look for an item number. Here is a great place to start.
Okay. So there is if Keith, comment on if this is, what if our competition isn't following these rules and listing an incorrect bill of lading? What what can someone do, or kind of talk about that?
So within the NMFC, right, we do have guidelines for the bill of lading that includes some rules here. And you do need to at least put a description of the item number in there. And I'm trying to remember exactly. I wasn't expecting to be quizzed on that piece there. But we also, advise that you put in length, width, and height as well here. Now, in a case where competition as far as competition may or may not be doing that, I would suggest working with the shipper, I think in this case, possibly, because I'm not sure exactly what the case here is, but, if they're not using the right item number, it's hard, I'm not sure exactly there, Joe. I gotta admit there. So, I would definitely work with the shipper and advise them what the correct item number is in order to make sure that they can get, the appropriate classes that are with that item. So
Yeah, and it will,
mhm.
I agree 100%. Work with them and
Yeah.
make sure that they're doing it accurately. And that will get them, accurate. Again, we don't do pricing, but this will give them the most accuracy. And one thing that Keith mentioned is, about getting the NMFC numbers. The getclassification.com will let you get that number and put it in. But if you're a shipper, or, also you can reach out to your carrier and say,
Mhm.
hey, I want to use this get classification. Can you give me the item number, or the NMSC number? And it's not a secret. So they'll also give that to you. And then you can go in and get the class and then let them know, hey, I've done some research and the class is changing, and then have that discussion with them. The more preparation you do, the better that conversation will be. We've done some panels with some very large carriers, and brokers, and and that's what they said is, hey, the better prepared that the shippers are, the more impressed that we are. The more engaged that they are, the more happy we are. We've got time for a couple more. Keith, we get the question a lot. Talk about mixed pallets. And if you're shipping a, commodity like with mixed pallets or
Sure. Rule
mixed,
640. Yeah, I
yep.
think Rule 640, I saw that in the questions, and I tried to answer it as well here. So,
Okay.
so keep in mind that while 2025-1 are large changes, we're not done yet here. We've gotten a lot of comments regarding 640 as well as other rules, and we're committed on it, going forward to make sure that we go through and these rules end up making sense with how we're looking at classification today, meaning density being the primary characteristic here. So it is definitely something that we're committed to looking at here. Not able to give a timeline, but yeah, we're definitely looking at it here. So
Okay. One of the questions has to do, and I can address this, what's the carrier feedback, or, because there's some, it may affect rates. Again, we don't do rates, but this was a NMFTA membership and industry driven change. There was a big need to simplify classification and to lean towards density. And so, this is a journey. This is going to take 2 to 3 years to complete this journey. And as Keith said, this is a low hanging fruit. We know that in some cases, from what we've heard from carriers, some things may go up, some things may go down based on the changes, but we really wanted to do simplification, and again reduce that friction, and these changes are driven by the industry. So we really listen to our membership, and it's a membership driven change. And so, that's what drove the change. We're not, hey, NMFTA decided to do this, and it's membership driven. And then we went and really did a lot of research, went to the docs, talked to the members, talked to everybody, really, shippers, brokers, 3PLs, carriers, and got a lot of feedback. So, some things, like I said, will get more expensive. Some things may get less. We don't control the pricing, but based on the changes, that's the impact. Keith, what's the term full density mean?
Oh, really, it's a term meaning that item number, instead of having specific classes assigned to it, for instance, a single class or even a modified density scale, we're looking at that item number and just opening it up to the full density scale, which we're changing to 13 subs here, meaning that this item will be classed according to the density, really is all that means there. So you need to get the dimensions and weight of it, figure out the density, and that you'll be able to figure out the class from there.
Okay. And the last questions get to do with, hey, I need to look up classes and things by product descriptions. That's really ClassIT Plus. And some people are saying, hey, should I go ahead and get ClassIT? And based on the questions, we never know how to answer this question, because it doesn't want to seem like, hey, we're pushing people to do it earlier. But it does give you an advantage, because you do transition to ClassIT Plus. So you lock in that price, but also you can go ahead and do your research. So I would definitely, if you want to do this research and start to look up things by description, I would go ahead and reach out and get a ClassIT subscription. And again, keep in mind, it's just going to roll into ClassIT Plus. Keith, Holly, any last words?
Thanks again. This has been a great turnout and really enjoyed taking these questions. I've been trying to answer as many by typing them out as well as I could here. So.
Yeah, same. Thank you all for joining us today. And I know we're going to have a few more of these between now and July 15th. So, and they're free, so feel free to join us again. Great questions. And yeah, it looks like we got a good bit of them answered. So if we missed your question, Well, we have it. Feel free to join us again.
Thanks all. Appreciate it.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.